Good afternoon, second grade. Today we'll be reading about American inventions that changed the world. So turn in your history books to page 142. Page 142. So, what do you think an inventor is? What's the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear the word inventor? Okay. So, a inventor is a person who designs something for the very first time. American free enterprise led to many inventions. Inventors were able to earn a profit from their designs. Many people were able to find work by building or making these new inventions in factories. People who sold these new products were also able to make a profit. Many of these inventions not only changed America, but the rest of the world as well. So let's read about the first invention, which is the sleeping car. So you see the picture on the bottom right. Transportation was changing in our country. Cattle, people, and goods could be moved quickly from place to place because of the railroad. The invention of the Pullman sleeping car made it much easier for people to travel. People enjoyed being able to get some rest or sleep by traveling by train. So you see in the picture in the bottom, it looks like a bed. People actually able to fall asleep during a train ride. Let's go to page 143. We're about to read about assembly line. And what does it mean to assemble? The assembly line. Many years ago, men had to build cars or automobiles one time by hand. That's freaking trying to build a car by hand. Think of the car. That's probably a lot of work. That's a lot of work. Now, it did it because it took a long time to make them. Only wealthy people had cars. Then a man named Henry Ford, he thought of a faster way to build things. He called it the assembly line. To assemble a Ford automobile, each person had his own special job to do. Instead of one person doing many jobs, the workers learned to work quickly, and cars could be assembled faster and for less money. Soon, many Americans were buying cars. So the two pictures you see at the bottom is the first picture. You see Henry Ford. That's the person driving with the Model T. That was the first car. And next you can see the assembly line down bottom. Then we actually creating the parts of the vehicle. Alright, let's flip over to page 144 and read about the invention of the airplane. Have you heard of the Wright brothers? They wondered, will it ever be possible for a man to fly? First, they built a glider. They took it to the sandy beach at Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. The glider was a success, but the Wright brothers, they did not stop there. They built more gliders. Then they decided to add an engine. It took them almost a year to build their first airplane. After a few tries, in 1903, Wilbur Wright flew 852 feet. Wow. Over time, airplanes improved. Today, jet planes carry people across America and around the world. Now, here's some additional facts about the Wright brothers. As children, the Wright brothers made helicopters from bamboo, cork, and paper. They continually tried to improve their inventions. They made 3 gliders and made almost 1,000 flights with the third one. When Wilbur Wright flew 852 feet on his airplane, something no one had done before, only a few newspapers carried the story. People just could not believe that a man could really fly. They thought the story was a joke. The Wright brothers continued to make improvements, and finally people began interested in their airplane. In 1927, Charles Lindbergh was the first person to fly across the Atlantic Ocean. Amelia Earhart was the first woman to fly solo across the Atlantic Ocean. Her last flight was an attempt to fly around the world. The last part for today, we're going to read about the telephone. Other things were being invented in our country too. A man named Alexander Graham Bell, who had come to America from Scotland, taught students who were deaf and mute or unable to speak. As he worked with his students and taught them to talk, he began to think of a telephone. He worked on his ideas. In 1876, Bell called his assistant over a telephone wire. He said, "Mr. Watson, come here. I want you." Mr. Watson came running. The telephone, it worked. Later, in 1915, Mr. Bell called Mr. Watson again with the same message. But this time, Mr. Bell was in New York, and Mr. Watson, he was in California. Soon, many homes and businesses had telephones. And here's some additional facts about the telephone. At first, Americans thought the telephone was just a toy. They had no idea that it could change their way of living. The telephone was shown at the World's Fair in Philadelphia in 1876. An English scientist, he saw the telephone and described it as the most wonderful thing in America. After that, people began to see how useful telephones could be. So, as you look at that picture down bottom on page 145, as you can see, that's one of the first telephones. Now, just look at the smart screen phones that we have now. Can you imagine how much time has changed? Or can you imagine even using that type of phone that they have? Technology has definitely improved.